quickly.
Y'all have a good trip.
Roger that.
Slowly. Slowly wait for it.
30.
29.
At 28.
27.
26.
25. 24.
23. 22.
21.
20 seconds and counting.
19.
18.
17.
16. 15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10 seconds.
6.
5.
4. And a 3.
2.
1.
Hey, good evening, everybody. This is John, Agent John here. Welcome to the Trust No One. I haven't read this for a while, so forgive me. Welcome to the Trust No One X-Files podcast, where some of my fellow agents and I discuss episodes of the X-Files. Today, we're going to talk about one that I think a lot of people have been anxious to talk about. We just lost Lisa. But hopefully she'll be back in a moment. We're talking about the first season episode, Tooms. It premiered on April 22nd, 1994. There she is. Welcome back. So let's just jump in. Before I get onto the questions here, I thought I'd ask one or two just general things, which is how do you think it works as a follow-up episode? I believe their first follow-up episode, isn't it? Where we actually see a returning villain or monster creature.
I really liked it. I think it has something old, something new. It had the continuation of Tooms' story, and Tooms is a really super gross monster of the week kind of thing that was popular. And then on the other hand, we get to meet Walter Skinner for the first time, right. And that's new. And also the cigarette smoking man spends some time on screen and says his very first line that we hear in the X-Files. So I thought overall for an X-Files fan, this show is great. Like this episode was great.
Now, I want everybody else to respond to that, but let me just ask a quick follow-up. Are you saying that as a fan looking back on an introduction of characters that are obviously going to become more important later, or are you saying as an episode and a fan, I just love it? Is there a difference there?
Both of those things apply. Yeah, I think that both characters were introduced in an understated, really smooth way. And they were intriguing, so we just got a little taste of them. So I thought that was a perfect introduction for both of them. And also as an episode, it just hit all the right X-Files buttons.
Who else wants to
smash the buttons?
I think in the first episode, Squeeze, that they left the door open at the end for, obviously the character to come back. So had they not done that, I think that would have probably been, them dropping the ball. But it was good. It wasn't like they had to try too hard to continue the story. There was a good storyline with it. And Tooms had unfinished business, so it made a lot of sense. And I felt like they did a really good job with the episode. And, they had finality in this episode. So
yeah.
That was a positive, in my opinion.
I mean, I can watch Tooms. I can watch Doug Hutchinson play that role all day long, right? Just unbelievably creepy, slow and menacing, and it's all the pauses and the long looks. And I mean, he's so reptilian. I love it. I absolutely love it. So in terms of just magnetism and a monster that could lurk among us, I think is the other thing about this, and the fact that they locked him in a cell. I mean, he could have got out of that cell at any point that he chose. So
well,
I think
and it wasn't that, and that leads into two things. Wasn't that the point of the opening? What's this? The teaser, the opening of the show, the teaser is him for no reason except to show the audience what this character could do if they missed it the first time, which, if you'll remember, the first scene is him, creeping his hand down around the chute where he got his food in the cell, and his arm appearing up on the other side of it. That was something I had in the questions, which was, what was the point of that teaser other than just to kind of introduce what the character can do? But also, I think it's him showing that, I could have left anytime I wanted to, but I wasn't ready to,
I think with the teaser, there's two parts to that. People who didn't see Squeeze are being introduced to that character, so they kind of need to be, pushed into that so that they understand what's going on. And I think the other side of that with Tooms is, is it a mental institution or jail? I don't even remember which one.
I think it was I don't remember if it was a specialty jail. I think it was a mental institution because, of course, they had the screaming patients in the back.
Oh, you are correct. I think, if he squeezed his way out of there, he would then be on radar.
Yeah.
In terms of, we got to find this guy. How did he do this? Him just sitting his time out, he didn't really have anything to lose. So in that case, it's like, do my time, move on with my life, and then I can just, go back into the shadows again and do what I've been doing. Yeah. So I think that purpose served to, I don't know what word I'm looking for, things.
No, it served its
purposes.
His purpose was to get out and get back to work, basically. And he knew he had a crack team, and he had a good case, and it kept the good boy image going, and he knew he was going to get out. And obviously, he had read the script too, so he knew he was going to.
He's definitely playing the long game, isn't he? I mean, he's been alive for hundreds of years. He plans to live for.
And that's something.
What's a few years sat in a cell, and he's not a very social bloke, is he? So
no. He's got to get out and get busy building another nest.
Got to get that liver.
Oh God, that's right, and the bile to make the nest. Why did the psychiatrist keep tapping his pen in the court scene? Why did that seem to? Why did Tooms react the way he did? Very his eyes start getting the yellow color. He gets that. Why is that triggering his killer instinct? Why, or is he just annoyed and wants it over with?
I think in that environment, it was pretty nondescript. There wasn't anything that really, really stood out in my mind as I watched that scene. So, you have the guy tapping that brought attention to them. And I would assume then that's what, drew Tooms to that character. And, in turn, it's like, ooh, liver. And then that whole
I think it was like, oh, that's going to be one of my meals when I get out because this guy's an idiot. I mean, my psychiatrist, I'm just using him to get out, but I'm going to eat him. I think he was getting hungry. I think that was also one of the points of showing that his eyes start getting yellow. Anytime he gets aggravated or frustrated, he starts to kind of morph a little bit.
It could have been jaundice.
Could have been jaundiced. Could have been. Yeah. I hadn't considered that.
I do have the question of what is it that triggers him? Like, what makes him decide to eat one person and not another? And so in that courtroom scene, I thought at first, well, yeah, it's the sound of the pen. They put an echo on it in post audio, and they made it so that we had to see how that somehow triggered him. But then later we see a woman just walking at random, and he, his eyes turn yellow and hungry for her as well. And there doesn't seem to be a real reason.
No,
unless it's just a generalized hunger, like you're talking about, like he goes in cycles, right? So now it's the feeding time. So
right, because he's got to get ready to nest again.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another reason why, the timing was right for him to get out. He obviously could have gotten out if he had to. He was going to have to get out because it was time to go back into sleep mode, cocoon mode. So he needed to get out for that reason too. But I think more than anything, it was kind of just a directorial trick build suspense. I don't think that they defined it well enough to say, if you had to ask me, not that you did.
I think it's quite complicated the way he's presented, actually, because on one level he's just this sort of animalistic being who's like I said, reptilian in terms of makes calculated kind of targeted attacks, right? Because you know he's cunning and he's stealthy and he needs to stay wild effectively, but then he collects like trophies, which I found really bizarre and serve absolutely no purpose at all, right? And then he frames Mulder because Mulder is a threat to his survival.
Right.
But you know, there's these different levels, and I almost think he quite enjoys the sort of game of chase with Mulder, and you can tell he takes great pleasure in seeing Mulder effectively humiliate himself in court, even though we know what he's saying is
Right.
valid.
Right.
You know, so there's something really, really disturbing about him because he's, on the one hand, just, I need my livers, I need to hibernate, which is very animalistic, and you can almost go, fair enough, that's your world,
That's your thing,
that's great. But because of these kind of like pleasure pain stuff that's on the go and the trophies, it becomes far more disturbing than that. So
you know what it is? It's the intelligent animal. You know, it's the biggest thing you could be afraid of is, you know, a wild animal that has the intelligence as well, though. You know, and also the wherewithal to enjoy what they're doing. It's not just instinct. You know, they really get into it. You know, he loves the game, and I think he loves that he's finally met somebody that actually caught him. First of all, you have to respect him for that. You know, I was actually caught after 100 years, but also the delight in the revenge that he gets to take. You know, because he was caught. You know, so.
Yeah, and then by framing Mulder, he's basically getting revenge in terms of, I mean, Mulder could have gone to prison effectively. So it's you put me in prison, I'll put you in prison. I'm not going to kill you, I'm going to play with you. Yeah.
Don't you think, step back for a second, and anybody jump in on this, don't you think that the way that Mulder was written, his explosion on the stand, you know, that did nothing but undermine any credibility that he had. Do I just need to get used to the fact that that is who he is? He doesn't give a shit. Or does that bother anybody else? That's just part of the character that I need to get used to.
I feel like there's that neurotic part to him, but I don't feel like it's on display frequently. Like, I felt like that scene in this episode was like an over-the-top Mulder situation. It was not one of those things that you're going to see a lot, but it does happen.
Anybody else?
Well, my brain stopped developing when I was a teenager, so I think it's hot. He's like passionate. He's saying it. He's telling it how it is, and he doesn't care, man. He doesn't care.
Speak your truth. Speak your truth, Mulder.
Yeah. So to me, as like when I watch the X-Files, I go back to a younger time from like the first time around when I watched it, and so when I watch it, I just think like, oh, you know, I enjoy and encourage such behavior in Mulder because to me it shows him to be the passionate crusader.
Yeah.
And what could be like more sexy than that? So even though it's really stupid.
I don't know. What could be more sexy than that?
It undermines anytime anyone loses their cool, they lose the argument because they're the moron that can't behave rationally. You know, but
if you have like a strong point and you're losing your cool, that's one thing. But like in this situation, he sounded like a madman. Like, I love the passion. I love that he is, you know, so into what it is he does. And, you know, in this particular situation, he knows what he's talking about. But everybody in that courtroom was like, he done lost his mind.
He needs to be smarter than that. I'm sorry.
But
you know,
Scully's into it because that's the first time, like in the car, when she said a super, like, I wouldn't have been surprised if at that point they hadn't started like violently making out because she looked at him and said, "You're the only one who I would, you know, risk my whatever for, you know."
Virginity? No.
Yeah, well, that's what it seemed like, you know, with her.
No,
like,
I know. Yeah, she's
and the
giving
big
herself
eyes.
over. I think in this episode, one of the important things that I think is kind of played interestingly as a subtext is that it's also the giving over of herself to Mulder's way of doing business. I really think that that's a big subtext to this episode. What does anybody else think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a really important shift because you've got this sense of when he's in court, he says, I don't care how it sounded as long as it was the truth. And then when she's having to defend their way of working to Skinner and to CSM, she's saying, but our success rate is this. What more do you want? What more could you possibly want than successful outcomes and the truth? And it's almost like we're not going to play any stupid games anymore. And it's a we now rather than a kind of him and me type scenario, which I find really, lovely and empowering and great because she's prepared to put it all on the line for him. And he's never had that before. And I think he's a bit like, oh, whoa, okay. So, yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Do you think the FBI kind of pushed her into his arms in that sense? Like,
well, I think that's an interesting question. I would say no. I would say she went willingly into his arms despite the FBI.
So you don't think that meeting where they sort of try to get all bureaucratic and process oriented and, toe the line and follow the rules, ma'am, on her, you don't think that gave her a push toward Mulder's way of doing things?
That was my follow-up question to this, actually, which is what did they want? You asked Annie, you said what more do you want? Well, what more did they want? What was the point of that?
Well, I think
what were they trying to do, and did they do what they wanted to do, or did they have something else happen?
I mean, just like Tooms is trying to survive in this episode, they are as well, right? Like Mulder constantly says, "Look, we're done pretty much." See, I can see why he's trying to go down fighting, and I think she knows it as well because I think she was put in there sort of debunk him effectively, and that's horribly wrong.
To what? I'm losing you there.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Yeah, because she was put in there originally to kind of challenge him and debunk him. I mean, that failed miserably, didn't it? So she's now got no purpose in a way, and they're clearly trying to close down the X-Files to, they're approaching Mulder.
Are they?
Well, they're approaching Mulder in a really different way, aren't they? Because they say to him, it's all the flattery. It's like, you're such a gifted agent. We've let you do this for a while.
I think Skinner wants to shut them down, but obviously that's not what the cigarette smoking man does.
No, but Skinner can't understand this. He's like, well, what is this? What is the purpose of this? Are you both messed up,
Yeah.
So he's just like, what is the point of all this, I think, which is interesting.
So do you think they were actually working as a team to bring her in? Or was Skinner having a meeting that the cigarette smoking man just happened to be at? Because their agendas seem completely opposite.
I don't think that Skinner has been let into the bigger picture.
No, I don't either. I don't either.
And so I think his purpose was just to fulfill his bureaucratic duty.
That's what I thought too. And that's why he's confused. And that's why he's confused, when he's like, are you as nuts as they are? I really think that's true. I think we're meant to think at first that, boy, they're really teaming up, but they're clearly not on the same page. Andrea, you haven't said. Andrea, say something. You jump in here.
I mean, when Scully asks, what more do you require? He didn't really have much of an answer. And I felt like, at that point, that kind of showed like, okay, he's being put in this position to kind of, throw the hammer down and rein him back in. But it's like when she respectfully asks, what do you want? He doesn't, I think that kind of showed that he did not really know how this game was working. Because I think I don't even remember what the response was specifically, but it was kind of, in my opinion, generic. So yeah, I think CSM kind of knew more of the game. And at that point, Skinner's, he's fresh meat in all of this. And
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that relationship between all of the four of them develops. Or if it does. I'm assuming it does. Because I know that he becomes a semi-regular, I think, doesn't he? The Skinner
you'll have
character.
to watch and find out.
Oh shit! I figured since Dan wasn't here, I could get away with asking questions. Dang it! I can't. Still, I can't. Let me jump down here. sorry, I there was something I wanted to ask. I didn't put it on paper. I have it on my phone this time, and that was a mistake. Because I like to write still, like an old man, you know.
I'm the same way if it makes you feel any better.
It
Yeah,
does
me
make me
too.
feel better.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So let's go into the for a moment. Let's go into the mystery with the old detective who we see again. Welcome return to that character actor. I thought nice to see him again with Agent Scully. How did he know? How do you know where the body was?
Because he's also got magical powers. No, I think there is. I do think there's such a thing as gut instinct and hunch and whatever. And you know, if you've obsessed over a case for that long and you've gone into a place like that, and I think it was in the former episode rather than this one, where he talks about walking into the room and there was a chill, and he's like, you just knew you were in the presence of evil, right?
Yes, that was the
So
previous one. Yeah.
yeah, so if that's stuck with you that much, I think you could put concrete down, you could do whatever else to try and conceal something. But yeah, I think you can get a gut thing on it, and yeah, there's just that moment where you know sometimes,
Well,
or
and he
maybe that's just because of
obviously,
special powers.
from the other episode, he obviously did have some sort of, I won't say psychic connection
Mm.
with the creature, Tooms, but he did have, because he obviously could never let it go, and he knew things that no other detective could figure out. You know, there was some sort, he had some sort of sense of the creature being something otherworldly. So maybe that, you know, also helps explain that. What do you guys think?
I I have a hard time with like the idea of they use the term hunch several times throughout the episode. Um,
Are you saying this is like another kind of lazy writing warning?
no,
Yeah.
no, I feel like there's some validity to, and like Agent Bennett said, having that gut feeling and trusting your gut, because I know that that has happened to me. It's like there's no rhyme or reason for me to think like this, but it's like something in the universe is just telling me this is it.
Mhm.
um but you know, my practical side says, how is there any validity in a hunch? You know, like that's not, you know, so that's something I kind of go back and forth with. But I just I do feel like there is something to be said with that gut instinct.
Yeah. Agent Lisa, any follow up on that or no?
Not for this one.
Okay.
Can I add one thing on it? I think this is an
Yeah.
episode about instincts and belief and science and knowledge and unconventional problem solving. So if you think about it, within this episode, you need to have the old-fashioned detective with the hunch. You need to have the scientific forensic team with all of the, you know, teeth and all that kind of stuff on the go. You need Mulder going at it from a sort of tenacious, slightly manic, you know, just obsessive, I'm just going to sit and watch him until something happens. So you need all three of those things for it to kind of come to fruition. And I think where they talk about at the beginning, we've got to follow protocol, you've got to follow procedure. It's like nothing ever happens if you just stick to the rules. You've got to break them to have those breakthroughs and to show genius. And this is what, you know, happens in this episode is that actually when different people with different skill sets get together, they can do far more than any, you know, agent that sticks by the rules, right?
Well, and as Scully says in response to him, Skinner saying, you know, you've got to follow the rules. You know, she says these are unconventional cases and they require unconventional solution, you know, ways to solve them, which is probably exactly right, and which he can't fully appreciate because I don't. Obviously, he's not a believer, you know, or he is just to a point, but he doesn't understand that to solve something unnatural, you have to go a different route to get there sometimes. So, what do you think about the? What do you think about the core mystery of the episode? Having Tooms back, him going on a kind of a mini rampage, and then kind of directing his anger at Mulder. How do you feel that went through the episode? Was that enough for you? The reason I'm asking, I'm baiting you, because I just felt like there wasn't. I'll just say this and let you guys respond. I didn't feel there was enough of a mystery. The episode was titled Tooms. We've talked about a lot of important things that happen for the characters and the story in this episode, but I felt like we were shortchanged on the mystery part of the episode and the going after of this creature. Did anybody else feel that way?
I could see it from that perspective, but as a bigger X-Files fan than you, John, my perspective is different, and I like it's a simple monster of the week story, and I think the mystery that arises is the mystery that arises in every single monster of the week story, which is like, could such a creature exist? And if this one, what other crazy creatures? And
Right.
so, like, you're talking about like complex mysteries. I'm talking about a monster of the week TV show where it can be dumb and fun.
I just wanted more. I just wanted more of it. I think I wanted more. It's not that I have a problem with the intelligence level of the story. I wanted more. I wanted it to be more like the first episode with him. I wanted there to be a more difficult chase, I guess. But I guess we covered that the first time around with him. So maybe that's why we didn't get that.
Well, I guess the thing now is, he's got out of prison by playing the system. He's now out there in the community. It's a matter of time before he does it again. And when he does it again, he's then got his final liver before he goes off and hibernates, right? So then it's going to be another however many years. So I guess the pressure comes from the timeline. And also Mulder needs people to actually believe this. He needs to convince people that this is the case. And he's fighting more against the system in this than he is against the killer, right? Because actually between the three of them, they can track down the killer and hopefully, get in the way and hopefully solve it. And actually they don't prevent the killing, but they do end the cycle. So I guess it's that sort of thing of, can you stop these unstoppable killers like Jack the Ripper, like, these people who are never caught? Well, what would happen if you actually could pin them down, even if it was unbelievable?
And we sort of see, what Mulder's alternate future could be, maybe not in this case, but in any case, with the old detective that sits there in his armchair wistfully about the villain that got away and then he couldn't do anything about. So that could be Mulder, and he's fighting against that, I think, during the entire X-Files run. Like, he doesn't want to be this obsolete dude who hasn't made a mark. He wants to catch the bad guys.
I don't know. Well, now let me jump on that for a second, because I think I don't know that his ego is quite that big. I think it's more about not that he wants to be recognized for succeeding, but he doesn't want to leave any case unsolved like his sister, Lisa.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I don't think it was. I just didn't think he was that ego driven.
I agree with you that it's, when I say make a mark, I don't mean like for fame. I mean it more like to feel like he's done something worthwhile.
Yeah.
Because,
okay. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you that he's not really. He doesn't really care what anyone thinks. He just wants to get the job done. So I agree with you there.
What did you guys think about the actual production values of the episode and how everything fit together direction-wise?
I thought it looked good. The moody lighting.
Yeah.
Like, you can make moody lighting look cheap and terrible, or you can make it look filmic. And in this case, it looked filmic and
I thought so too.
polished. It looked
Yeah,
high-end.
I thought it looked very
they
nice.
were starting to get money in the coffers, I think, toward the
I
end.
thought about that too. I thought it doesn't look like a cable show. It looks like a filmed show, you know. I thought it looked really good.
Some advertising dollars coming in with like more people watching.
Can tell. You can really tell. You know, it's funny. It's amazing actually. When the budgets go up, you can tell a lot of times. You know, they just get to do better stuff. You know.
I think also filming in Vancouver, you know, they had the advantage there of that gloomy, rainy weather so frequently, and that just really, I don't know if that's why they Vancouver, but it certainly worked to their advantage. You know, it's one of those
definitely
things.
worked to their advantage. You know, the reason to film there was the price. They got a huge tax break.
Because that's the same thing in Pittsburgh. We have tons of stuff filming in Pittsburgh because tax breaks.
You could,
but you guys don't forget the Canadian dollar, the American dollar. So we actually get a lot of movie shoots where I live in Toronto, and way more in Vancouver. So because American productions are like, oh my God, everything's free, you know, to you Americans.
What about Tooms' attempt to frame Mulder? How did you think that went down?
I liked the idea of it, you know, to show that he's really cunning in what he's capable of. I didn't feel like there was enough time to fully execute what it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So great idea. I really think it was an issue with time. They just didn't have enough time to fully expand on that. I think they could have done a lot more with it. But again, you've got 45 minutes runtime to make it all happen. So.
Guess what, folks? We've got some questions here. I didn't even notice that. Did you guys notice that?
Yes, I've been typing some answers.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Should we throw them out here for discussion?
Sure.
Yes.
I've learned, Brad asks, I've learned via psychotherapy that following your gut is important because that's your that's your complex keeping you safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
believe that Mulder's occasional volatility stems from the loss of it says brother here, but I'm guessing it would be sister. So thoughts on that? I know we're kind of backtracking to Mulder's kind of craziness.
No, I think that, you know, what Brad is putting out there definitely is valid. You know, there's a motivation behind our actions. And when people get to the point where they don't give a shit anymore, it's usually because something big happened to bring them to that point. So, you know, it would make sense that, you know, Mulder being so tenacious with going after cases and trying to get his point out there, that he would have that passion that he does because, you know, he's being driven by the loss of a sister.
Right.
I mean, without wanting to skip to the end of the episode completely, I mean, and that's that lovely shot of the chrysalis, isn't there? And, you know, I just know that change is going to come, and, you know, change can be a wonderful thing, and it's transformation, and it's the death of something but the beginning of something else. And I think that's really crucial. And and it's the whole thing as well, I think, though, of like, one monster has been killed in an escalator. Lovely, by the way, great plan. But there's going to be another one. It's going to pop out with another head somewhere else, you know, so their job is never done. And
well, and he even says that, you know, even says, one down, but, you know, who knows what's brewing up in that cocoon.
Mulder gets that lovely line where they're deciding who's going to go down the vent, and he says, "No, you can get the next mutant. I'll take this." And you know, it's tongue in cheek, and there's some lovely comedy lines in this. Actually, I really enjoyed rewatching it for the comedy sort of element.
Thanks for bringing that up, because I thought the entire episode I kept thinking, man, this is a funny one this time.
Well, I kept thinking they're really having a good time.
Yeah.
We're having a great time.
They're
The
really
chemistry
gelling.
was very
They're really
apparent.
gelling in this episode. You know, they really are.
Yeah.
They've really connected. And again, maybe that talk with Skinner went a long way towards letting Scully drop her guard quite a bit more, and even really play along more with her partner in crime. I mean, well, not crime.
Yeah, I mean, you get called into a meeting where they're pissing you off because they're complaining about what you're doing, but you're doing a good job. That's enough motivation for me to go back and do exactly what they told me not to do and take pictures.
That's right. It's one of those boss from hell stories. It's like, what do you want from me?
Right.
Giving you exactly what you need. Do we have a candidate for this week's supporting actor, best job? You remember how we always do? I'm not wording this well.
Secondary character.
You did the best with what you had. You didn't go overboard. You did a great job just as that character. Do we have a positive or negative supporting character this week that we felt?
I don't remember their names, but it was the like Foster family that was going to take Eugene Victor Tooms in.
Yes.
They looked like, for whatever reason, like when they kind of stood up and took a step forward, I thought like American Gothic, like that painting. I don't know why. And it's like, you have picked the two seemingly most meek individuals to take on a killer mutant in their house, which interestingly, they weren't the ones that got killed.
No.
No, that's right.
Because I mean, I looked at them and I'm like, oh, they're done.
Oh yeah, me
and
too.
They were not the ones that got killed. They went out for the night. The psychiatrist came in and he ate the psychiatrist.
And chomp,
Spoiler alert.
Maybe there is something to the fact that certain people just have the right ingredients for him. I mean, he did give the orange look to the psychiatrist early in the episode, like, the love light in his eyes. It's like, hey, baby, I'll be seeing you real soon.
I like that you said he had the right ingredient because you were going to eat him.
That's right. So it's like, hey, baby, I'll be seeing you later.
Yeah.
This is where I get a bit confused, though, in terms of because he's intelligent enough to not go for the couple, and Mulder says that as well. He says that he's not going to; it's too obvious. Well, it's just as obvious to go for the psychiatrist, right? It's like,
and
who's the random liver?
Go after Mulder as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there is this strange bit where, like you say, like, what is it about the victims that he goes for? Because it's not just opportunity, is it? He does lock on for some reason.
I felt like the psychiatrist, I don't know if it's the way the actor portrayed the character or how the character was written. He wasn't abrasive. I felt like he was almost condescending. Like, Tooms is a grown man, and just the way he would speak to him, I felt was very childlike. And that would be very condescending.
Very patronizing. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's the perfect word, patronizing.
Yeah.
And I have to wonder if it's like I've had to sit in these sessions with this guy for ages. Like, I'm coming for you, Doc. Like, we're done.
It's almost a Hannibal Lecter, like, if I have to put up with one more fool like this, it's like,
You're done.
For me, I thought it was just for the audience because I found the psychiatrist to be so annoying. It's like, you dummy, can't you see? And so then they feed him to us. They're like, see how this guy's a dummy?
Yes,
suffer because dummies deserve to die and be eaten. and it just sort of satisfies this, I think, bloodlust that audiences, viewers might have for people that don't know or see as much as we feel they should.
If you're going to disrespect me that much,
yeah, I don't know. I could be wrong.
You deserve to get your liver removed. I love it. And of course, I actually really enjoyed the ending, although it was silly. I enjoyed the Mulder getting sucked into the cocoon. It's like, and him, coming out. I love that scene. crawling down, like just like, ew, it's just so creepy. I love that.
I think they
And
said what
again-
they used for the bile was like a gel icing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
So
first
I,
yeah, the first time
I
it was.
read it.
Because
I
remember they
read that
said
it
they
was-
ate a ton of it.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was the same this time.
Yeah, it
They
was
were-
apparently it was yellow piping gel, but it stuck to all their hair. So when they like took it off, it took some hair with it. There was quite a lot on
Ooh,
both of them. That's not going to be good, is it? Apparently the guy
whoa.
did the final scene naked as well. Did you read that?
In
Oh,
this
my.
one?
The guy playing Tooms, yeah, when he's shooting out
Oh,
of
I
the
know originally. In the first episode, he insisted
Apparently,
on
yeah.
playing those scenes naked.
yeah.
So he did it again this time, huh?
Maybe he just really likes being naked, covered in yellow
Well,
goo. I fully support his choice.
I well, it's certainly more realistic, and he is more of a method actor. So I'm sure that he really wanted to go full manimal there at the end,
Manimal.
which is
He's
I
very
miss
good.
you guys so much.
oh, no, this is so great. This really is nice. It feels like it's been a long time since we've seen each other,
It has.
and that's
Yeah.
been, that's been
Eating
very nice.
torts. Stop it.
I am going to, you know what? We might just wrap this up a little bit quicker tonight, if you guys are fine with that, because I'm kind of running out of things to talk about. Unless you guys have some other questions or comments about this particular episode.
I think I just have a question or a kind of consideration maybe around like so obviously we have the death of Tooms at the end there, and Mulder being a bit whimsical and like, oh, it's all going to change, it's all shifting, the mood shifting. He seems not resigned to it, but almost just like quite philosophical, like, yeah, this is what's going to happen now, which when you contrast him to his behavior in the courtroom at the beginning is a massive shift. So do you think it's because he comes close to death, or like
I think it really freaked him out.
Yeah.
I think he really got a lot closer to dying than he thought he was going to.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? I really thought that there was a noticeable change as well. Agent Lisa?
I don't have anything to add. I completely agree.
Oh, okay. Agent Michaels?
Same with you guys.
You agree with that? Yeah, okay. Well, this has been a scintillating discussion. No, it actually has been great. It really has been great. Let's see. Do we know what's coming up next? On the next episode, do we know? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Oh, no, I'm not sure. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
Do you know what made me think about this episode as well, though? It was this is Skinner's first appearance, but it's like he just appears. And I was like, have I missed an episode where he pops up before? And
That's really funny. I did the same thing. I actually stopped it and looked.
yeah,
to see if
same.
I had missed one.
I was
think
like, surely there should be a big introductory. This is your new AD, Skinner, or whatever. And it's
Yeah,
not.
but
He's
you know
there
what?
interrogating her.
I always try to go back to thinking about how I would felt with, and when something like this happens, like when there's a big shift like that, I actually tend to go and look and see when the air date was on this episode as opposed to the one previous. Because a lot of times, they'll have like a month hiatus and come back.
Yeah.
And we don't think about that now because we're watching them, in fairly quick succession. So sometimes I wonder if, there was a longer break in the timeline, so probably nobody thought about it, or, maybe it was just even 2 weeks instead of 1 week off. And I think it's things like that are more obvious to us when we watch them in a row. That being said, I think too, it was just the part of the point was we're not supposed to really understand the relationship between the cigarette smoking man and him and who he is. And so, but I think it was a little too nebulous. I think it was too much of that. But what do you guys think about that?
I think with the way that they had presented Skinner, not really knowing where the show was going, because at this point, I believe Gillian Anderson was pregnant, and they knew, and they were going to have to run some sort of recon. So hey, we've got this guy that we brought in, and they may have been still just throwing things at the wall to see what would stick.
That could be.
And
there's a lot of that in the first season.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And sometimes you just end up with characters that really, really work, because what I always felt Skinner presented himself as was a real jerk that did not like Mulder and Scully. But as the series goes on, we see a shift in that.
Oh, okay.
And I wouldn't have thought that would be the direction that went in. And then to answer the question about the next episode, it is Born Again.
Oh no, we saw that one. Didn't we see that one?
No.
Isn't that the one with the Christian kid?
This is after a detective and his former partner die in inexplicable circumstances. The accidents are linked to a little girl who witnessed both deaths.
Oh, okay. No.
And then you have Roland and the Erlenmeyer flask to round out the season. So
yeah,
we're almost done.
I know.
We've almost gone through the whole first season. We're going to go around the room here, and I'm going to change up the way we do our rating system this week. And I'm sure that Dan will have something to say about that when he sees this. And we'll see if he likes it or not. But and this may not be the best episode for this, but I thought it would be interesting to see what your rating was in your head before we had our podcast, and if it changed either positively or negatively. We've talked a lot about how much we appreciate each other's feedback, and I think it would be fun to see if there's a difference, if your mind has changed on anything. Again, this may not be the best episode for it, because I think we all genuinely like the episode. But I think it would be fun. I would have given the episode a 7 going in, and I leave at a 7.5. Even I liked the episode, but I do like it even more now. So that would be my thought on that. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I really like this episode. I think coming in before the discussion, I would have given it an 8. And I think, it probably has gone up a bit as well. So I think on reflection, there's a couple of bits that I would change. I think there's, the sort of plot line of trying to frame Mulder is underdeveloped. And I think the ending sort of wraps up too quick. And I kind of wanted to go back to Skinner and CSM in a bit more detail, and to actually see a genuine threat being posed to Mulder and Scully. So there's more there. But even with that in mind, I think in terms of seeing everybody play to their strengths and coming out and destroying this form of malevolence, I would say it's a 9 after the discussion.
Yeah. Okay. Agent Lisa, do you want to go next?
Sure. Well, I will not be swayed. So I came in with an 8, and I'm leaving with an 8. I'll say about nothing.
Well, I'm such a non-believer. Why would you listen to me anyway?
I think you make some good points, but in this episode, I liked how good looking it was. Like I said earlier, I think they finally started to see some ad dollars, and that was reflected in their production values. It was witty, like the dialogue was funny. You could take your brain off the hook and not have to think too hard for this one, and just enjoy and be grossed out by the slime. So yeah, it wasn't the perfect X-Files episode, because it was missing that element of complexity maybe, and nuance, but it was just good quality for what it was trying to be. I think it nailed it.
Okay, good. Agent Michaels.
I am in agreement with Agent Lisa. I'm going with an 8, and that's what I came in with. I think I can be swayed. I have in previous episodes when we've gone through with our discussion. There have been times where you guys have brought up some points, and I'm like, I totally missed that. And, it's actually brought my number down significantly.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah.
And this one, I feel pretty cut and dry. You have a good base to the story. You have a background to the story. It's, you know, kind of a revival of something from earlier in the season. Good characters. I felt like the chemistry between Duchovny and Anderson really, really came out in this episode. It was written well, shot well. A couple of things I didn't like that were just a matter of personal preference, like the joke about the liverwurst sandwich.
Oh, I know that.
Like,
wah, wah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's like dumb little things like that. Like docking a half a point.
Yeah.
But it, you know, by and large, it was a good episode, and you could really see that this show was starting to come into its own. And you know, I attribute a lot of that really to the chemistry of Anderson and Duchovny. I mean, they found their rhythm and they went with it, and you know, you could tell that you had something special by this point. So
I think, and since I have a backbone like a wet noodle, after hearing this, I'm actually going to bump mine up to an 8. So,
Woo!
I'm not ashamed to say that I can be swayed, and you guys all brought up really good points. So I'm moving
Shame.
up
Just kidding.
Yeah,
so
I actually think it's a
I'm
5.
officially going up to an 8. So it's so
That's
great to see you
awesome.
all.
yes,
It's wonderful to see you all, and actually we're pretty close on time anyway. So I think I will thank you all for joining the discussion as always, and we hope you guys, our viewers, have enjoyed it as well. Let us know in our comment section, you know, what you thought about this. Please remember to like and subscribe to the video. I've been sending out a link on Facebook to different X-Files sites. You can find us actually on Facebook, right? At
Trust no one.
yes. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you. The Trust No One X-Files podcast. You can join us there, and you'll see updates on when we will be on next. But hopefully, it will be next week. Remember to like and subscribe to the video, and as always, as you guys keep trying to convince me, the truth is still out.